Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, episode 62 of Mystery Reviews. I gotta say, I've been doing a lot. And before I get into the main crux of it, I do want to point out that the month of October, all the mystery reviews will be horror movies. I will still give hints. And also, I'm thinking about moving the schedule of mystery reviews. I'm asking currently on Twitter at OrangeHat1985 what is a good time for people to watch them? What is a good time for you guys? Because honestly, now 10:30 a.m., a time that I've carved out, has been appropriated by others, and I am now basically competing with bigger channels, and most of our following are cross-following, so they pull away a lot of the viewers that I usually get. So I'm thinking about changing it around so I don't have to deal with that. Just let me know what is a good time, either afternoon or morning, and I will do or get into that. So also, if you want to support my channel, be sure to like or leave likes, leave or like the channel, share the videos, folks. As much as I stress this, sharing the videos, leaving the likes, watching them, those are the three main important things to get the algorithm to recognize my channel. Because my channel is stagnating right now at 1111 subs. And the watch time is decreasing because of lack of watching the streams and whatnot and watching the videos. I'm trying to get videos out there so people can notice them. I'm trying to get the likes so that the algorithm notices them. I'm trying to get the channel noticed because eventually I do plan on monetizing. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do plan on it, and I would like your support in order to get that far. So without further ado, Mystery Review episode 62. I gave the hints live action and cartoon. Now you could have had so many movies fit this description. Movies like Mary Poppins 2. What was that one with Don Knotts? The one where he played a cartoon fish in a live action world. And how you doing, Vanja? I haven't shouted out anybody in the chat yet. Good to see you. And morning, Jack of all casuals. Good to see you. But yes, likes, shares are very important for the channel. There was also, what other ones are there? I believe there was also Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, I believe, also had cartoon stuff. And yeah, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. But as I said in the previous one, it may not be as obvious as you think, but it was the obvious choice. This time, it is indeed Roger Rabbit and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, 1989, I believe this movie was released. It took 2 years to make. And when I say that this movie took 2 years to make, it took 2 years to make. Now, this movie was also planned earlier in the 80s, but was put on hold because of certain problems they had. Also, yeah, Space Jam's. Yeah, I would never do Space Jam 2, though. But yes, this movie is insanely hard to make. You will see characters interacting with each other that you will never see again on film after this movie was made. You will see Disney and Warner Brother cartoon characters interacting with each other. Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck versus Daffy Duck. We all know that scene. There hasn't been another movie since that has done those, or that has allowed two competing studios to come together like they did in this movie. So yes, this movie is actually one of the most unique movies out there. So, yeah, a movie that took many years to make was put on hold. then picked up again because of a limited budget when they said, okay, this is your budget. You either get it made or we scrap it. And they're like, okay, we're going to get it done. And yes, it took 2 years to get the project to be done properly. Who Framed Roger Rabbit stars Bob Hoskins, Christopher Lloyd, Joanna Cassidy, and the voice talent of Charles Fleischer as Roger Rabbit, and the voice talents of many others. When they do the voices of people like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Daffy Duck, it's all the original voice actors. This was done back when they were still around. I believe that some of them still are. And I remember also owning storybooks and other things related to the movie, toys and storybooks about the different tales that could have gone on, and so many other things too. It really is, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit is truly a spectacular movie. So we start with the nice jazz tune for the title, and they ask, or we then are transitioned into the run-of-the-mill cartoon, Roger Rabbit and Baby Herman. And it's the old cartoon style of the Looney Tunes and whatnot. Now, apparently, the specific style there was only one person to truly mimic the style of old Looney Tunes and Disney film artistic style. I can't remember the name of the person, but his style was completely unique. Now, one of the things I really did like about the cartoon that they have is it's your run-of-the-mill, somebody's about to hurt themselves, or and the wily characters getting smacked around and or done. You see all the crazy abuses that the guy goes through, Roger in this case, while Baby Herman just wants a cookie. So yeah, that cartoon version is very cool. It's a nice way to really break the ice and get it in there. And then we see the cartoon is over budget. And when the refrigerator lands on Roger's head, he has birds instead of stars. And these are considered lines because they are lines written in a script. Yes, the classic Tom and Jerry. I can't remember who did this art style for Looney Tunes. Let me actually look it up. Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes. Who drew the original Looney Tunes? Hugh Harmon. I don't think that is the one that who's the illustrator of Looney Tunes? Chuck Jones. Those aren't the ones that are ringing any bells. Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies. Well, I'm still trying to find it, but just bear with me, folks. Who came first, Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny? But yeah. When did they stop making Looney Tunes? When people started getting too offended. I'm reading from Google, sorry. But anyway, back to the thing. The director of this, he's like, cut. Roger, what is this? A Tweety bird. You can't get anything right, can you? Now, if you watch certain movies with special features, you'll see a producer known as Joel Silver. He's been in the biz for decades, and this is one where he plays Raoul, the director. And you wouldn't even recognize him. And we also see that Baby Herman is a baby cartoon, but he's like 50 years old. And he's like, what the hell was wrong with that take? Nothing, Baby Herman. You were beautiful. You were perfect. You were better than perfect. It's just Roger. He keeps blowing his lines. And so you then see the difference of the transition. In the cartoon, you see the normal 2D versions of these characters. But when they walk onto a live action set, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, actually had to do what's known as shading to make them look more three-dimensional. And I absolutely love the technique that they used. I mean, this is cutting edge back then, and this was done without computers, folks. It was actually done without the computer animations that we know and love today, and that we see today. So just bear that in mind. A lot of this was mechanics. A lot of this was stand-ins. A lot of this was even rubber rabbits and rubber dummies and whatnot. Plus Charles Fleischer being on the set in a freaking Roger Rabbit outfit, telling his lines. That was actually his idea. And good morning, Price is Right review. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, it's just better when something is there. Exactly. And we then see a beautiful pan over to Bob Hoskins, the late Bob Hoskins now. Rest in peace, Bob. And he has just it's like he's looking at Roger Rabbit chasing after the director. He's like, just drop the refrigerator on my head one more time. Roger, I've dropped it on your head 30 times already. Don't worry about, or I'm a Toon, I can take it. Don't worry about me. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the refrigerator. He's like, I can give you stars. Look. He grabs a pan, starts bashing himself over the head. Look. And doing it again. Yep. And it's just so great. And then you see Bob Hoskins just looking and he's like, Toons. And you see him taking a swig. Bob Hoskins, man, this dude deserves an award if he hadn't gotten one for this film. If he never got a reward for Roger Rabbit, honestly, he should have got best acting because he's literally acting against nothing a lot of this film. Or whenever he's acting against a Toon, whenever a Toon bumps into him and he moves, like the hippo later on, when it actually bumps into him, and he actually does the movement and looks over, he's looking at nothing. This actually goes to speak to his actual skill. Let me actually ask, did Bob Hoskins get an award? Did Bob Hoskins get an award for Roger Rabbit? Well, he definitely didn't. Oh, wait a second. BAFTA, leading role. It was a British Academy film. So was it for Roger Rabbit? What year? Roger Rabbit. What year was framed? Okay. That was 88, so that was filmed. So 89. He didn't get any awards for Roger Rabbit at all, which kind of sucks because he honestly should have. It really sucks that Bob Hoskins didn't get any awards for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The movie won 3 Oscars for editing, visual editing, and visual effects. Yeah. And he honestly should have gotten one because when you're acting against nothing, Most people freaking are like, I can't work like this. Well, Bob Hoskins actually did work that way, and he actually did it so well that it really is seamless. I mean, sure, there's a couple of scenes where the eye lines don't fit right, but honestly, you barely notice them. So he's now we learn that we are in Hollywood, 1947, and we are introduced to R.K. Maroon. And R.K. Maroon wants to hire Eddie Valiant, who is a private investigator and a detective to the stars. And he wants Eddie to follow Jessica Rabbit, Roger's wife, to wise him up so he can get his lines right, because he keeps blowing his lines. And he's like, you can drop whatever you want on his head, but if you break his heart, he falls to pieces like you and me. Read that. And he learns that Marvin Acme is a sugar daddy to Jessica Rabbit. So he's like, what does this got to do with me? I want you to take some pictures to wise the rabbit up with. And he's like, it's going to cost you $100. $100? That's ridiculous. So's the job. And you also see that Eddie has a drinking problem because he's always going for the booze. It's also in the Library of Congress, so at least it will be preserved. That is good. My favorite Toon interacting in live action will always be Space Jam or Back in Action with Brendan Fraser. I mean, sure, there are those ones as well, but honestly, to me, Roger Rabbit was a big part of my life growing up. So, yeah, that movie's always going to have a special place in my heart. And you learn, or imagine back in the day saying, $100, that's ridiculous. So's the job. Okay, you got your $100. And you see that $100 was kind of worth something, especially to a studio that traffics in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for simple cartoons. I mean, he's like, I'm 30 grand or 60 grand or something over budget on the latest Baby Herman cartoon because the rabbit can't get his lines right. And you see that, or you then see a bunch of things happening outside in the studio lot. $100 is about $2,100 today. Yeah, exactly. And back then, or back on the lot, you see Eddie just looking out through the slats of the window curtain or the window shade, and you see Dumbo just come up, and he's like, ah! And he's literally pulls a tune. He's hiding under the damn table in like less than a second. And it's just Dumbo. Just Dumbo the Flying Elephant. I got him on loan from Disney. He and half the cast of Fantasia. The best part is they work for peanuts. And they toss him a peanut, and you see Dumbo flying off. Well, I don't work for peanuts. Where's the other 50? Let's just call it a carrot for you to finish the job. You've been hanging around rabbits too long, man. I love that line. So we see more of a studio lot of Hollywood and him heading out of the studio. And most of this is actually shot in London, Elstree Studios in London. And Industrial Light and Magic. And they had to actually make a lot of these sets look more American instead of British, because of them actually suppose this is taking place in Hollywood. Like the Terminal Place, the bar that Eddie's girlfriend works at, Dolores. We see that he's he goes home on the red car, which is a trolley system, and he shows them a check for $50. What do I look like, a bank? So he just tags along on the back of it, hitches a ride there with some kids that are hitching a ride. And he gets back to his place, fixes the sign that says Valiant and Valiant Private Investigators. We see that the postman, he's like, Anything new? Just the usual bills. So he then looks at the red car building, which has a sign going up, a Cloverfield, or now a Cloverfield business or industry. And so he goes, or he tosses the bills. It's like you're back on your bills and you're just tossing them. So it's like, holy crap, man. So then he goes to the bar to talk with Dolores. He talks to a couple other guys. He's like, "Hey, you all right?" And he sees one of the trolley guys, puts his hat back on him while he's passed out on the table. "What's with Earl?" And they write down "laid off." He's like, "Laid off?" And you learn from another guy, a new outfit bought the red car, and this new place or a thing called Cloverleaf. No kidding, they bought the red car. Yeah. Put the poor chap on, put the poor guy on 2 weeks' notice. Cutbacks, they said, and it was a black actor, so this shows that there was diversity in the film. You had black people black people were around in Hollywood back then, so yeah, it happened. And he's like, "Oh well, Earl, here's to the pencil pushers. May they all get lead poisoning, eh?" And he goes to drink, and that's when you see the hand go over, and he looks up. "Tomorrow's Friday, Eddie. Do you know what happens on Friday? Fish special. My boss opens the books tomorrow or on Friday, and if I don't have the money that I loaned you back in the till, I'm going to lose my job." So this is Dolores, his friend, played by the beautiful Joanna Cassidy at the time, and he's like, "Don't lose a button, Dolores. You only got one left." Shows him the check for $50. $50? Where's the rest? It's only a snoop job away, so you know that there's a reason why he said $100. He's helping pay back a debt to Dolores, who could be in trouble if she doesn't get the money back in the till. So he's like, "You got the camera? Mine's in the shop. Wouldn't be the pawn shop by any chance, would it? Come on, Dolores. You need the other 50. I need the camera." And we learned that these two had a history about a time that they went to Catalina together. And I love how the set is rigged to have everything on vibrators underneath, because the place is built right next to the red car terminal. So when a red car is going out or going by, the whole place shakes, and she lifts up to hold the plates so they don't fall. Because back then, and even now, if you're working in a diner or bar or restaurant, whatever you break, you have to pay for. That has been an age-old thing. So we then see, let's see here. Oh, I did forget about when he was on the lot leaving RK Maroon. We see the ballerina hippo sitting down and launching a dude skyward. That was all done in shot on camera obviously without the ballerina hippo, but it really is a great shot that shows you that this can all happen, and they can just insert whatever they need. This was done back in the 80s, folks. So she's like, "Is the paper any good? Check the scroll. RK Maroon, as in maroon cartoon." Oh, fuck. Hold on. People should really know I am live on Tuesdays at this time. You do not call me. But people still do call me. Sorry about that, folks. So, hey, wise guys, good to see you. Cameron Ryder, good to see you. And where am I here? I'm also reading from the talking points, folks. So sorry, I just had a brain fart here. So we see the character of Angelo come in at the mention of maroon cartoons, and he's taunting Eddie, and he's like, "So who's your client this time, Mr. Eddie to the stars, or detective to the stars?" And he's like, "Did somebody kidnap Dinky Doodle?" And it's okay, Amelia. But yeah. So he's like, let me guess. Uh, you're working for little Bo Peep. She lost a sheep, and you're gonna help her find him, right? And as he's making these taunts to Eddie about working for Toons, you see the rage building on Bob Hoskins' face. He's like, and then he just kicks the stool out from Angelo's feet, so his face just comes right down on the bar. And Angelo also has an egg that he was cracking out, a hard-boiled egg, because people actually that was a common thing sometimes when people would just bring an egg in to have with their food and whatnot. Yes, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And he's like, get this straight, meatball. I don't work for Toons. And he just slams the egg and rubs his face down in it and walks off. And Angelo's like, what's your problem? The way that Joanna Cassidy acts this, completely straight face, she's like, a Toon killed his brother. Everybody turns. And then or she's like, drop the piano on his head. And it hurts to be reminded of that because she also knew his brother, Teddy, which we only see in pictures and whatnot. And the reason why this is so shocking to some of the patrons when they're like, wait, what? You're learning this because a Toon having malice against humans is not a very common thing. It's extremely rare. Violence against humans, honestly, is a forbidden crime in Toon World, unless it's part of an act, you know? So we then get to the club, and the swearing Toon gorilla, he's like, nice monkey suit. Wise ass. Well, that was actually something that scared Disney. This is a Disney film, folks, but they put it off to Amblin Entertainment Studios because that's where their more adult content films would go if they were the ones that were making a film that was more adult themed. So a movie that had swearing or F-bombs or sex or nudity would go to Amblin Entertainment, which was also, I believe, run by the talented Steven Spielberg, who also has a credit in this film. He was actually the driving forces for getting Disney characters and Warner Brother cartoons all in the same movie together. So this movie does owe a lot of its success to Steven Spielberg, even though this movie was directed by Robert Zemeckis. Steven Spielberg has a producer credit. Now, Robert Zemeckis at the time wanted to do Roger Rabbit back in the earlier 80s before he had done the Back to the Future trilogy. Well, at the time, he was just a up-and-coming director. He hadn't really done anything of real success. Both of his movies were a flop. Well, then, after doing Back to the Future trilogy and the Roger Rabbit production going on hiatus for a while, then they're like, we're going to have Zemeckis. He just got off doing a couple of great movies, or a few great movies, you know? Yes, Amblin Entertainment is Spielberg, but it was also one that was partnered with Disney for when Disney wanted to do adult film or adult themed film, movies more for adults. So yes, the swearing gorilla was actually something that worried the studio. So then we get into this big club where you see cartoon penguins walking around with trays. The trays are real trays. There's tracks in the room, all throughout this room, where these trays are on rods to hold the trays up and being bussed around these things. If you got to really look at this, and you see that all the things that the Toons are carrying, holding, and whatnot are all real life items. When somebody hands the cartoon octopus a tip, it's real money, and he also has a real margarita shaker on the other side, and all of that. So this is something that is really pretty well done. You see, or we also get introduced to Marvin Acme, and he squirts the ink on frickin' he just squirts it, and when you see Bob Hoskins, he's like, looks down at him, and he just starts laughing about it. He's like, "Oh, you think that's funny?" I mean, how would you react if somebody just took a pen, just squirted a bunch of ink onto your shirt, man? It's like, "Oh, you think that's funny?" "Oh, it's a panic. You ain't gonna think that's funny when I stick that pen up your nose. Calm down, son. Look, the stain is gone. It's disappearing ink." And he's like, "Look, I know who you are. Marvin Acme, the guy that owns Toontown, the gag king. If it's Acme, it's a panic. Or it's a gasser. Now go put it there, pal." And he gives him the ham buzzer treatment. And Marvin Acme was not a person who existed in real life. It was just nice for the studio to actually create somebody who created all the boxes in the Roadrunner commercial, or the Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons. So you know who made them then, you know? Donald versus Daffy. Yes. The pianos were specially made pianos that did auto playing, where they're playing with, and they had to carefully time the tune that they were playing, that Donald and Daffy were playing. And this was one of the main things. It's like, if this movie is done, or that Disney made the deal with Spielberg, that if this movie was done, you had to have Daffy Duck and Donald Duck in the same scene together, doing something together. It also, you had to have Mickey and Bugs doing something together. So it works so well when they do, or when you do see these characters interacting, you know? And so you see Donald Duck, he's like, "Can anybody understand what this duck is saying?" And Daffy's just pissed off, and he's like, "God damn, no sooner that did it." And he's like, "This is the last time I work with somebody with a speech impediment." And he's like, "Oh yeah?" And then they just start beating each other, and it's like, this means war. It's just so great when you see them smacking each other around. Now, the music that they're playing is sped up to tune speed, and it's the Hungarian Rhapsody. And it's like, oh my God, when you actually listen to the difference between the tune sped up version and the real version, it's really noticeable. You actually got to speed it up to like 1 or 1.5 or something to actually get it to the tune version, which was pretty great. And you see Donald Duck slam out or punch out freaking Daffy, coming out with one boxing glove on his hand, getting really to the Beethoven of it all, to the crescendo. And then, oh my God, freaking Daffy comes up, devil horns, cannon, boom. And you see the two hooks come in, pulling them apart, and Daffy Duck's going absolutely bananas. And it's like, oh my gosh, man. And then you hear cigars, cigarettes, Eddie Valiant. I saw a YouTube short about those two moments. One of the agreements supposedly was that Mickey and Bugs had to, yeah. Yep. And it was truly a great scene with, or scenes when you saw Disney and Warner Brothers mixing up their cartoon characters and interacting with each other. But yeah, you'll also see Betty Boop in this. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" "Work's been slow since Toons went to color, but I still got it, Eddie." And she does her little boop, boop, ba boop. And he's like, "Yeah, you still got it." And you understand that he also he doesn't like working for Toons, but he also knows Toons. He also has interacted with Toons before. So you know that there's a very complicated thing there. Orange Hat Reviews is actually Donald who has the last shot with Donald being evil. Yeah. Yeah. He's the one that fires the cannon, which causes the hooks to come in and pull them out. And so you then see Marvin Acme dressing up with all of his cologne and whatnot. He's like, what's with him? Marvin never misses a day when Jessica performs. He has a thing for rabbits, huh? Now this is or shows just how ignorant that Eddie Valiant is, because he thinks that Jessica Rabbit's just a rabbit-like character. Well, cue the music, and it's "Why Don't You Do Right." It's like an old it's a 40s song by Patty Hill, I believe it is. And we see sexy human leg, or bust. And then the curtain pulls back and it's Jessica Rabbit. Now, we all know how attractive Jessica Rabbit is when it comes to her character and whatnot. And we also realize that Jessica Rabbit has been censored by Disney now because they want to destroy the male gaze. She's the original inspiration for Hello Nurse, to be completely honest. Yes, she is. I mean, folks, I'm pretty sure that this was every teenager's sexual fantasy character back in the 80s and early 90s for teenagers. Because it's like hubba hubba. And they did something unique with her character, that when they actually had a person walking around London to study how women walk and what their body movements, their bust movement and whatnot. So when women take a step and their boobs kind of go up and then down, well, when Jessica Rabbit moves, her boobs go down and then up. They actually flip the script with her animation. And you see how she interacts with real life things. They actually had an actress coming in to do the movements for the singing or for the musical number. And all the people were cued to the music. All of their movements and whatnot, when they were doing the blank slate filming, whatever certain part of the music that they were cued to was when they had to react, which is actually done pretty well, you know? It shows that they took a lot of care into filming the sequences. And then you learn that Eddie Valiant is completely shocked. He's like, she's married to Roger Rabbit? Yeah, what a lucky gal. And fucking Betty Boop just pops up Eddie's jaw, because his jaw's like, and she's like, and this is all Bob Hoskins reacting to it. This is him doing that. And it really just goes to, again, to show how good he is at acting. So when he does his little snooping, he's snooping in the keyhole, and, well, Mr. Bounce Gorilla, he's like, and what do you think you're doing, chump? Who you calling a chump, chimp? I just love that. He freaking gets tough. Don't ever let me catch you your peeping butt around here again. Got it? Slams the door. Ooga booga. Anthony Hopkins, man. Dude, you're freaking missed. Or Hoskins. Not Hopkins. Hoskins. Anthony Hoskins. Or Tony Hoskins. Fucking missed. Bob Hoskins. Not Tony. Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm getting the names just whacked out. Bob Hoskins. Yeah. Bob Hoskins and Anthony Hopkins. Ugh. Sorry, folks. But anyway. He then catches them playing patty cake, or just so you guys know, in the Toon world, patty cake is essentially sex for Toons, which is basically what this is supposedly giving you the idea of it. And he's taking the pictures and he's like, oh my God. And then you actually see the pictures because Roger goes rapid showing what's going on with the patty cake. And you then see the reaction of Roger. He's flipping out. He's he's heartbroken. And RK Maroon is like, oh my, I've known for RK Maroon for 40 years. Who would have thought he was a sugar daddy? And it's like, dude, you literally handed Eddie article saying that he's a sugar daddy. So, oh my gosh, man. So we get to the bait, and he's like, no, Jessica wouldn't do it. She wouldn't. I shan't believe it. I can't believe it. I took the pictures myself. She played patty cake. And oh my, Jessica's my wife. And he's just rapidly going through these photos so you actually see the patty cake going. And he's like, Jessica's the light of my life, the apple of my eye, the cream of my coffee. Well, you better be getting or start drinking it black because it looks like Acme's cream in the coffee now, or has the cream now. It's like, oh, damn, dude. So they so RK Maroon gives Roger the drink of whiskey, and you see the reaction. Now, this was so freaking great. This is also something that worried Disney. So Amblin Entertainment got the studio became the studio to do it, where you see what happens when he reacts. And apparently, I was listening to the audio commentary earlier. An unnamed whiskey distributor is like, if you give him whiskey from our product, we'll pay you $100,000. It's like, sold. Sold. You're offering to pay us $100,000. So yeah, sold. Now, they don't show you what it is, obviously, but apparently the decanter and whatnot is the telling of what it is. It's supposedly some really fine whiskey or bourbon or whatever it is. I'm not a drinker, so I can't tell shit from a shingle when it comes to alcohol. But I just love the reaction where he goes steam engine or steam horn and breaking all the glass, and you see freaking Bob Hoskins there. He's like, and then it busts in his hands. He's like, "Ugh." Let me tell you something, folks. If you have glass break in your hand, even if it doesn't cut you, it's very scary. You're having something that can slice you up, bust in your hand. And then he comes down and he's like, thanks. I needed that. Yeah, it is hard to say adult stuff in a child-friendly film, but this movie was essentially a good balance between kid-friendly and adult-friendly. So yes, Hoskins, he's like, or they're like, Roger, I know the search now, but you'll find somebody new, won't you? Or won't he, Mr. Valiant? Yeah, a good-looking guy like that, dames will be all over him. Dames? What dames? Just because the only one for me, he'll see. We're going to get through this picadillo, and we're going to be happy. Yes, happy. That's HAPPI. And then he just jumps out the window, through the slats, through the glass. It's carved out in a rabbit. I mean, when they do all this animation, remember, there's no cartoon doing this. So when they bust out that window, it does make you wonder how they pre-cut all that stuff, man. That's the effort that goes into these films. You got to film these films dry, meaning you can't, or you don't have the cartoons in. Then you got to have animators, a bunch of animators, do all of the freaking drawings for all of what's going on. You got to make sure that they match the eye line. You got to make sure that they match the movement, because you can't, or even the slightest inch to or millimeter to the left or right for these drawings will ruin the shot. That's the magic, man. Yeah, exactly, Jack. All casuals. It's magic. Orange hat, magic. Exactly. That's how they did all this stuff. And it really just goes to show that this stuff could be done before movies that do terrible jobs of it today. I mean, I would love to see or I would have loved to see a sequel, but unfortunately, there was way too many complications for the sequel to ever happen, and it never did. But yeah. So he's like, well, at least he took it well. And then you see the scene where Roger is just freaking, he is purely depressed. He's crying. He sits up on a box and he opens his wallet and he's like, tell me it's not true. And he has the stutter. And he's like, please. And he's just, you really do feel sorry for this man or for this Toon, where he is just purely heartbroken. Because essentially, patty cake is, like I said, it's sex for a Toon. It's essentially cheating. So his wife essentially cheated on him. I'm happy there was no sequel. Some movies don't need it and shouldn't. You're right, actually. You really are right. And this film was based on a book that was called Who Censored Roger Rabbit. And there's way too many differences to even say that it's an actual adaptation. It's a story in and of itself. Because in the story, Roger Rabbit is the one who's killed. And Toons can create temporary clones or Toon clones of themselves. And it's the Toon clone that actually helps solve his own murder. And then he ends up disappearing at the end. And there are so many different versions of the script where Jessica Rabbit was the villain, where Baby Herman was the villain, where any number of people were different villains. And I'm so glad they settled on the one that we have, because honestly, the one where Baby Herman was the villain, you see him in a Zeppelin above Hollywood, like laughing maniacally, and it's like, what the fuck, man? Really is great. So he Eddie has gone back to his home / office, and he sees this woman out there with a baby carriage and leaning down. And he's like, hey. And then she stands up, lights a lighter, and he comes bringing it down into the carriage. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? And then you see it's just Baby Herman with the stogie. And this is a real stogie in this scene. There's a way that you can actually see all these things online, where you can actually see the dry shots. And when you see the stogie just moving around, and it's like, whoa. The way that they do this, man, is truly great. It's an older art, and it's honestly, they need to go back to it, because the way that they're doing shit now is just sucking. So he's telling him, he shows him the paper, and they're saying that Acme had no will, but that's a load of succotash. Every Toon knows that Marvin Acme had a will. Oh wait, hold on. I accidentally skipped over something. Yeah, that scene came after the murder of Marvin Acme. But what came before, I'm sorry about that, folks. We are going to cover this because it kind of is important to really give you an idea of who he is. So we see Eddie show up at Valiant and Valiant, which is his office, and you see him going through the other pictures that were in the camera when they got developed. Sorry, brain fart. And you see him looking at his brother Teddy and him in the photos down in Catalina, that Joanna Cassidy's character Dolores was talking about. And then you see him looking across the desk at his brother's desk, which is dusted over completely. His chair's all dusty and everything. And you see a nice little pan around the office, which is also indicative to a passage of time for this scene, because this is late at night. And then when it ends, it shows him in the morning with the bottle of whiskey that he was drinking, and it's still in his hand. And he's just face down on the desk. And you see the different stories of how him and his brother helped these different Toons. how they solved the abduction of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and how they cleared Goofy of spy charges. And then a picture of them in 1925, the police graduation of 1925, new clowns on the beat. And then you learn that the Valiant Brothers were the sons of a circus performer for Barnum and Bailey. It gives you a nice background into the story of Eddie Valiant and his past, and the brother, and how they helped so many different tunes. And we then see the next morning. And this actor is an actor that was from Star Wars. I believe it's the same actor that was in Return of the Jedi, who was the commander that was like, I assure you, Lord Vader, our guys are working as fast as they can. Perhaps I could find new ways to motivate them. He's that Moff. I believe it was Moff Gergerard, or no. I can't remember which one it is, but it's that guy. And he's like, Jesus, Eddie, if you needed money, why didn't you come to me? He's like, what? All I took were a couple of lousy pictures. So kill me. He's like, no, thanks. I already got another stiff on my hand, huh? Marvin Acme, the rabbit cacked him last night. What? So, yeah, they go down to Acme Studio, and you see Bob stop as they're going in. He's like, it's just I haven't been this close to Toontown in a while. And then you see Yosemite Sam coming out or flying out of Toontown with his ass on fire. He's like, my biscuits are burning. Fire on the hatch. Or friggin', oh my God, it's just so great. And he puts his ass out in a friggin' puddle. True, though, considering Disney nowadays, it wouldn't surprise me if they do a remake of it, just race swapping and replacing with the woke new cartoons. Yeah, most likely that is how they would do it. But honestly, good luck getting Warner Brothers to sign off on it. I don't think Warner Brothers would go for it, to be completely honest. So, yeah, jumping horny toes, that's smart. But seeing Yosemite Sam is so great in this. So then they go in, and you see that Marvin Acme had a safe dropped on his head. Kind of very reminiscent to Eddie's brother, who had a piano dropped on his head. And this dumbass detective, can't remember, or something like Spinelli or something like that. And he's like, leave it to a Toon to drop a safe on a guy's head. And then he looks over at Eddie because he just realized what he said. Sorry, Eddie. And Eddie's looking at him like, are you fucking serious, man? And so you also see a rope that has yellow paint on it, which is the same color as Roger's gloves. And you'll see that what's her name is giving a statement upstairs, Jessica Rabbit. And he's looking at, or you see the other cops going around looking at all the Acme stuff, like the hole that you could throw against the wall, stick your hand in, pull it out, singing swords. And these are all setups, folks. All the stuff you see in the Acme factory is all a setup for the climax scenes later on, which is truly funny as hell. And then you see Mr. Valiant. He turns around, sees Jessica Rabbit, and he kind of gets a smile. Smack! I hope you're proud of yourself and those pictures you took. It's like, oh shit, dude. You also see the Toon hammer that has the boxing glove, which is pretty cool. I mean, all of this is so great. And then you see the guys knock over a box with a bunch of animated shoes. And it causes Acme's body to get dislodged from the carrier that they're wheeling him out on, and he drops his hand buzzer. And he goes to pick it up, and then you get introduced to Judge Doom. Christopher Lloyd plays this character so freaking well. I mean, Christopher Lloyd is one of the greatest actors with the most range. He's played good people. He's played bad characters. And one person one time asked me, he's like, name a character he played that was bad that wasn't Judge Doom. Homeless guy in Dennis the Menace. So it's like, yeah, I do know my movies, pal. I believe he was also a Klingon in Star Trek. So yeah, there's that too. And it just is so great. And you see him, he's like, is this man removing evidence from the scene of a crime? The way that he looks is like a vulture, dude. And believe it or not, Christopher Lloyd actually once had a pet vulture. I can't remember the damn thing's name. I believe it started with a V or something like that. And Voltaire. He had a freaking vulture called Voltaire that he would actually bring around and shit and whatnot. A freaking pet vulture, dude. Can you believe that shit? And so the judge or the detective is like, no, sir. Eddie was just picking that up for you. Weren't you, Eddie? Oh, yeah, here. And he uses the hand buzzer and shocks up the judge, and he's like, this is bestseller. Amusing. And so he starts acting. He's like, hey, man, do I look like a stenographer? Take it easy, man. Take it easy, Eddie. The man's a judge. Because he was going over how the rabbit is guilty and whatnot. And he's like, and the conversation with Marvin Acme. Or not Acme, but R.K. Maroon. And he's like, don't worry, Sergeant or Captain. Or from where I'm standing, I'd say it was the booze talking, because he could basically smell the booze on him, which is a big hint of this character, because later on you see him sniff a record. I mean, this guy is more than what he seems, you know. And another fun fact about this movie is that in every scene with Judge Doom, you will not see Christopher Lloyd blink his eyes. And there's a reason for that, as we all know. He doesn't blink his eyes at all, apparently. The judge never is seen blinking his eyes. And so we get introduced to the Dip and how he became a judge. He's like, how did a ghoul like Doom become a judge? He spread a bunch of simoleons all over Toontown, bought the election. And he's like, what's that? And then he lifts off the things when the weasels come in, because the weasels are working for Doom as the Toon Patrol. And they come in essentially crazy-ass mobsters, you know. I love the weasels. And he sees one of the shoes that got loose, the squeaking shoe, and he's like, now that I'm in jurisdiction, or Toontown is under my jurisdiction, I will bring a little bit of law and order to the chaos that is Toontown. And they are going to learn to respect the law. And so he puts on a big old freaking glove that's down to here. And this is the most controversial scene in the entire movie. So, or why would a judge be at a crime scene? It's because, one, there's actual several answers to that. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody in the chat has seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But to answer this basically is twofold. One, when it comes to Toons, the judge of Toontown would be there. And two, the real murderer always returns to the scene of a crime to admire their work. We all know that he is the one who actually killed Marvin Acme. So when he goes and starts dipping the shoe, and he's like, you remember how everybody said you can't kill a Toon? Well, Doom found a way. Turpentine, acetone, benzene. A mix of all three. And it's like, he calls it the dip. And then you see him dip the damn shoe and kill it, he kills the Toon. And it's like, oh my God, dude. They aren't kid gloves, Mr. Valiant. And I'm like, this is just pure insanity. That this dude kills Toons and is willing to kill Toons to enforce the law. I mean, not only is that shoe dead, but imagine its sibling, you know? Imagine how traumatized a twin sibling is to losing their sibling. Twins often, when they lose a sibling, they can either feel it or they are extremely broken by it. I usually do get deep into that stuff, you know, folks. I was never a twin, but I learned a lot about twins growing up. So, yeah. We then, or I believe the next scene was with him returning to his office and talking with baby Herman. So, let's see here. Yep. Baby Herman scene where he lights, or she's like, I've been trying to get him to cut down, but he just won't listen to me. Dumb broad, what would you know? It's like, you just see how sexist and freaking misogynistic baby Herman is. And he's like, why don't you go downstairs and get me a race form? Whoosh, smacks the woman's ass. Okay, I'm going. He's like, ladies, man, huh? The problem is I got a 50-year-old lust and a 3-year-old dinky. And it's like, holy shit. So then he talks about how there's no will and whatnot. And he's like, that's a load of succotash. Every Toon knows that Acme had a will. He was going to leave Toontown to us Toons. And he's like, I just figured that you could help get my friend out of the trouble that you put him in. I could pay you. The second that he freaking said that, Eddie was completely against it. He's like, maybe you should save your money for a new pair of elevator shoes. Shoves the damn baby carriage down the hall where the woman has just come up. He's like, no, Valiant, no. And he drops a stogie. My stogie! And then he just starts crying like a baby. So Eddie gets into his office, and you still hear the commotion outside a little bit, and then it dies out. And he starts taking his shoes off, getting ready to go to bed. Well, yeah. Roger is in the office, and he's in the bed, hiding. And he's like, what are you doing here? I had nowhere else to go considering I'm wanted for murder. Yeah. Wait, does anybody know you're here? No, nobody knows I'm here except for the postal men, the workman guy. They didn't know. But the liquor store guy, he knew. It's like, so now the whole fucking town knows you're here. And he's trying to push him out of the door. He's like, couldn't kill anybody. I'm not violent. And he's like, ah. And so he starts pulling him. And he's getting ready to launch him. And he's like, my only job is to make people laugh. And I just love how the scene is played out, man. How he is like, well, why come to me? I'm the one who took pictures of you and your wife. Every Toon knows that if a Toon is in trouble, there's only one place to go. Valiant and Valiant. Not anymore. And then you see that Roger puts his hand on his brother's chair and he's about to sit. And Eddie, he's like, get on that chair. He just reacts so violently, and you see Roger just moving away, shaking and whatnot. But you also see that his hand impacted the chair, which he actually leaves prints on. So that's how much they've paid attention to this scene. They actually shows that the Toon interacts and puts prints on the chair through the dust, which is pretty cool. He's like, that's my brother's chair. Yeah, where is your brother? He looks like a charming and sober fellow. That's it. I'm calling the cops. Oh, go ahead. Call the cops. I come to you looking for help, and what do? You turn me in. No, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. And thanks for nothing. He slams the door. That's the closet. You stoop. So he goes looking in the closet, and Roger's not there until he peeks up into his Valiant's hat and overcoat, and he's like, Mr. Valiant, you're under arrest. And he pulls him out. Here. You idiot. I have no keys for these cuffs. I'm like, oh, shit. So then you hear the Toon Patrol, and they freak out, and he's like, you got to get me out of here, Eddie. What are we going to do? All right, he's like, we know there's no justice in Toontown anymore. If the weasels get their hands on me, I'm as good as dipped. And you hear the weasels outside of his door open up in the name of the law. Come on, Valiant. All we want is the rabbit. He's like, what's this wee stuff? All he wants is the rabbit. Well, then, instead of waiting, the weasels freaking just Tommy gun the damn handle off. And he's like, looks like they gave us the slip, huh, boss? Nah, the rabbit's here. He's just got him stashed somewhere. Now, when they have the real guns in their hands, again, mechanics pushing and whatnot. And we then see that the hyenas, the weasels have a problem with laughing. When they start laughing at the head hyena or weasel getting the soap in his mouth, and he's telling them, stop that laughing. And he spits the soap out of his mouth, smacking one of them. The other one is laughing his ass off. And he's like, don't you remember when you can't stop laughing? He's beating the hell out of his other hyenas. The other one's still laughing. Whoosh, throws it like a spear, getting him to stop laughing. One of these days, you're all going to die laughing. Howdy, boys. I didn't hear you come in. Yeah, there's that line, too. A handcuff without the key. Yes, a handcuff without keys. I'm guessing he lost the keys in Toontown somewhere. Who knows? I mean, that's another thing. When people ask simple questions like these, why have handcuffs without keys? And if you're talking about a series or something, back then, and even nowadays, people like me anyway, you don't need everything explained to you. You can literally just draw your own conclusions, and they might even work. Like, maybe he did lose those the keys to those handcuffs in Toontown because he used to work in Toontown. Maybe he lost them somewhere else on the beat. Who knows? But I'm sure there is an explanation, but it doesn't really need to be answered. Nowadays, everybody needs every fucking question answered. It's like, oh my God, why don't you just think a little bit of it? Draw your own conclusion. It works. The only problem nowadays is that some people just draw up some of the dumbest conclusions. But anyway, back to the film, or the weasels go out or leave, and it's like, and he pulls up Roger, and he's like, they're gone. It's like, thank you, Eddie. You saved my life. How can I ever repay you? And he kisses him. He's like, for starters, don't ever kiss me again. So they go to the terminal shack, or the terminal place, the bar. He's like, stop kicking me. Stop kicking me. Dolores. Well, he's trying to speak over the place shaken up by one of the red cars coming in. Dolores! And she gets up. She's looking at him like, are you fucking serious? Yelling at me right now? Thinking it's for people that are not she. Yeah, you're damn right, Jack of all casuals. But yeah. So then the rabbit comes out, and this is one of Mara Jade's clips. I really love her channel where she has this clip where he shoves the rabbit back down. So tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Cut the sarcasm, Dolores. I've had a really bad day. Got to get out of these cuffs. And they go into the rock gut room, which was a holdover from Prohibition, where they always hid the booze and whatnot. And I love this scene because he's like, or cutting out because he's yanking Eddie everywhere, tripping over everybody and whatnot. Opens up the spy hole with his eyes where they go like this to dip over a bottle of beer. And it's just so great. And he's like, they're talking about that baby was right. He had a will. And she asks, she's like, okay, what can I do? Maybe you can go down and check the probate. Yeah, check the probate. My Uncle Thumper had or had to check his probate. And so the doctor gave him these huge pills, and he had to drink lots of water. Not prostate, you idiot, probate. He's like, and he's going over his hunch of what, or maybe R.K. Maroon killed him, or killed Marvin Acme to get his hands on Toontown. So, yeah. Well, Prohibition was less than 10 years ago in that, or in the events of, yes, indeed. Because Prohibition lasted, I believe, till, or up to the 30s. In fact, we can actually just look it up right now. When did Prohibition end? 1930, 33. So 14 and a half years, or 13 and a half years prior to the movie. I do love that the Bambi reference to Thumper. Well, the truth is, Roger Rabbit is actually the son of a well-known rabbit. He's actually related to Bugs Bunny. Yeah, Roger Rabbit is the son of Bugs Bunny, by the way. Hello, Riot Kitty. It's always a pleasure to see you. Have you seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit? So, yeah. He finally cuts him, or he's working on cutting himself out of the cuffs. And Cannoli Sasquatch, good to see you. How you doing, buddy? And so he's like, hold still, would you? And so freaking Roger just slips the cuff, and he's like, does this help? Yeah, thanks. And then he realizes, and he's like, are you telling me you could have slipped your cuff or your hand out of that cuff at any time? No, not any time, only when it's funny. And so it's like, where's your sense of humor, man? And so it's just so great. So then he's like, all right, so while you guys, or can you leave, or can he stay here? He's not going to do anything crazy, is he? He freaking has a damn file that he's just rubbing through his brain. And it's like, oh my God, it's just so bad. So, he has to go to the office. Now, there's actually a deleted scene that was finished for the most part that he also has to go to someplace else. He's going to look or get on the case, essentially, and he gets caught by the weasels and Judge Doom. And he's like, well, I'm about to take you downtown. And he's like, fine, I'd love to go downtown. We can talk about what's going on. Oh, you misunderstand me, Eddie. Not downtown L.A., downtown Toontown. And this scares Eddie because he doesn't want to go back to Toontown. Remember, he doesn't like Toons. So you then see Eddie thrown out of Toontown with a cartoon pig on his head. And so he has to get that off. And believe me, folks, I'm going to make a point of this. There's a reason why when he's back at his office and when Jessica shows up, he's coming out like he just had a shower. Well, that's because he had just used turpentine shampoo. Sorry. Lost the word for a second there. And he's like, or he had to use turpentine shampoo to get the pig off his head. So that's why he looks like he just got out of the shower when Jessica Rabbit shows up looking for Mr. Valiant. Downtown Toontown is a mouth. Yeah, that is a mouthful. Say it 30 times fast or whatever. But anyway, she's like, or she tries telling him that I could never betray my husband. I was blackmailed just as you were to take, or you were set up to take those pictures, because I was blackmailed by R.K. Maroon, saying that if I didn't pose for those pictures, Roger would never Roger would never get work again. And she's basically desperate to hire him and whatnot. And he's like, or he hasn't put on his suspenders yet. So she learned, or when she says, I would do anything for my husband, Mr. Valiant, anything. When her boobs press up against him, you hear boom. And he's like, what a wife. And then she's like, Please, Mr. Valiant, you don't know how much I need you. Just as frickin' Dolores comes in and his pants drop. And it's like, oh, shit. And it's like, dabbing in watercolors, Eddie? So he pulls up his pants. So Jessica's leaving. She blows him a kiss, and the kiss goes through and smacks on his cheeks. Well, do you want to explain what she was doing with her arms around you? Probably looking for a place to stick a knife. Oh, come on, Eddie. I caught you with your pants down. He's like, well, Dolores, come on, man. You don't think that painted hussy, or I would want anything to do with that painted hussy. And she's listening in because she's only in the car just outside of there. It's like, I'm on the verge of wrapping up this case. No, you're not, Eddie. That's what I came by to tell you. Or RK Maroon doesn't want Toontown. It's Cloverleaf that wants Toontown. They put in the highest bid. And unless Acme's will doesn't show up by midnight tonight, Cloverleaf is going to own Toontown. And you then hear him. He's like, wait, first they buy the red car, and now they want to get their hands on Toontown. What's the connection? Well, the connection is you still got to pay attention. Anyway, they hear Roger going insane in the in the bar, and you also see the weasels are like, it's the rabbit, get the judge. And so freaking Roger's entertaining all the guys, the patrons in the bar and whatnot. And you see, or he's singing. And when they have the plate getting smashed over and over, it's a literal robot that's doing smashing over its head to do it. And you see freaking Dolores, she's like, no! Because she has to pay for all those dishes as they get busted up because she is the patron of she's the woman that is the head of the bar. You know? I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way. Exactly. That is one of the best lines, and I'm sorry I glossed over it and whatnot, because while she does come across as incredibly slutty, she isn't bad. She's faithful to her husband. And so he kicks him back to the back room. And he's like, all right, I told you, or those people needed a laugh. Don't you understand? He's like, Angelo out there would rat you out for a nickel. No, not Angelo. Why? Because you made him laugh? Yeah, you don't understand. The power of laughter is a very important thing. Sometimes it's the only weapon we Toons have, which is actually explained or shown in the scene when, well, Judge Doom shows up and he's looking for a murderer and he describes the rabbit and whatnot. Then he shows, or he makes his offer of $5,000. And Angelo's like, hey, I've seen a rabbit. Now you think that Angelo's going to rat him out. And he's like, he's right here in the bar. Well, say hello, Harry. And it's the midget that's in the bar that he's talking to, and they all start laughing, and you see that Doom's kind of pissed off. So then he smiles, and he's like, all right, well, he looks around, sees the skipping record. He's like, merry-go-round broke down. Quite a loony choice for a bunch of broken down reprobates or drunken reprobates. And so he sniffs the record and he's like, he's here. Whips it like a frisbee and it goes into the one of the weasels' mouths, and he's like, stop that laughing, because they start all laughing. And he smacks him around. He's like, don't you remember what happened last time? If you don't stop that laughing, you're going to end up dead like your crazy hyena cousins. So, yeah, they can actually, or Toons can actually kill themselves if they're laughing too hard. Interesting, huh? She is faithful. What a woman. Exactly. Not a lot of women are faithful nowadays. I mean, there are some, don't get me wrong. Right, Kitty? But, yeah. So, he's like, do you think we should or the head weasel is always getting words wrong. Or we got deformants all over the city. We'll find them. And he has all sorts of different words. I can't remember what what one he tried or he says instead of disassemble. But he's like, do you think we should dismantle the place? No, Sergeant. Disassembling the place won't be necessary. The rabbit is going to come to me. And he starts, so he starts tapping all over the place. And Eddie's like, I don't know who's Toonier. You or Doom. Well, looking back, you see Roger's going nuts because apparently this is something that drives Toons nuts. And he's like, no Toon can resist the old shave and a haircut trick. And so Roger just can't stop himself, and he blasts through the wall, and he's yelling out, 2 bits, and he grabs him. It's like, oh, wow, okay, so what should we do with the wallflower? We'll deal with him later. Right now, I feel like dispensing some justice. Bring me some dip. And so Eddie goes with some quick thinking to Dolores. Pour me a bourbon, make it a double. Why don't you ask for some pretzels to go along with it? Just pour the drink, Dolores. So she pours the drink. He's like, hey, Judge, doesn't the condemned have a last request? He's like, yeah, nose plugs would be nice. How about it, Judge? Okay, I don't mind prolonging the execution. I think you need a drink. He's like, no, thanks, Eddie. I'm trying to cut down. Drink the drink, but I don't want the drink. He doesn't want the drink. He does. I don't. You do. I don't. You do. I don't. You don't. I do. You don't. I do. You don't. I do. You don't. Listen, buddy, when I say I do, that means I do. Turning it around on him is so freaking great, man. So we get the same reaction after he slogs it, and it causes commotions where they're able to get out of there. And so then he's like, we got to hide some of this. Roger, let's use this. They jump in the Toon Patrol's car, and then you learn that there's somebody in the back. It's like, hey, you weasels, let me out of here. I got to make a living. Benny, is that you? No, it's Eleanor Roosevelt. Let me out of here, Roger. So it's the cab. I love Benny the cab, man. Benny the cab is so freaking hilarious. He's like, I was driving on this, or what kind of idiot pulls you over driving on the sidewalk? It was only a couple of miles. So they're trying, or you get the chase, and it is so freaking great. I'm gonna ram him. I'm gonna blow his head off. And they're shooting at him, and you get the motorcycle cops chasing after him then. And I believe one of those, because one of the motorcycle cops looked very familiar. I believe one of them was actually I love the subtle hints when Eddie spills the dip. Yes. The hint, or where the judge is backing up as best as he can so he doesn't get any of it on him. So that is actually a very big hint of what, or a clue about the judge of who he is. But yes, one of the motorcycle cops, sorry, I keep on having word slips, folks, is, I believe, Robert Zemeckis, which I'm actually gonna, was Bob Zemeckis. A motorcycle cop in Roger Rabbit. I believe he was. All right, the wrong question. Did Bob Zemeckis have a cameo in Roger Rabbit? He's also a big studio star. He has trouble. Is that as well? They don't answer it. Son of a gun. But if you look closely at one of the cops with the sunglasses, it actually does look like Bob Zemeckis. So they find themselves in an alleyway where the cops are chasing them one way and the weasels coming down the other way. I'm gonna ram him. Pull the lever. Which one? Which one? Which one? I mean, you have a freaking thing that comes out. This lever, stupid. It's the only lever there, or the lever. And so they freaking pull it up, and his wheels are he has these stretchers attached to the wheels. I just saw your recent video. Thank you, Kamen Rider. And it's like, I'm getting too old for this. And so the weasels smack into the rider cops. And he's like, hey, Roger, what do you call the middle of a song? Because they're heading straight towards a bridge. And he's like, gee, I don't know. I don't want a bridge. And so they end up getting on the bridge, missing a woman and her baby. Thank God. And so he's like, we need some place to hide. I got just the place. And incidentally, if you ever need help, just stick out your thumb. And so they drop him at the theater. And I absolutely love this. So, oops, hold on. Let me, there we go. So at the theater, we see, or Roger manages to get Eddie to ask why he doesn't like Toons. He's like, he's like, what could have turned you into such a sourpuss? And he's like, you want to know? I'll tell you. A Toon killed my brother. A Toon? No. Yeah, that's right. A Toon. And the performance that he gives is so great. It's like he's telling the story to kids. He's like, me and Teddy were on the beat back in Toontown back then. We liked working Toontown. It was a lot of laughs. Anyway, this guy ended up robbing the National Bank, and he got away with a zillion simoleons. Now, simoleons, folks, for those of you who haven't figured it out, because I mentioned simoleons earlier, they're the currency in Toontown. And a zillion is an actual real number. So, in Toontown. So, he says we tracked him down to an old area, and he got the drop on us, literally. Let loose a piano from 15 stories. Broke my arm. Teddy didn't make it. And he was just standing above me, and last thing I remember was his high, squeaky voice and his burning red eyes. I never did find out who he was. So we do learn later who it is. So Roger's crying his eyes out because of the sad story. He's like, no wonder he hate me. If a Toon killed my brother, I'd hate me too. He's like, I don't hate you. He's like, yes, you do. You're always pulling my ears. And he's like, I'm sorry I pulled your ears. All the time she pulled my ears? All the times I yanked your ears. Apology accepted. Put it there, pal. And so that's when Dolores comes in, and she's like, all this stuff is parked out into the car. Sorry, I'm late. Had to shake the weasels. He's like, I'm sorry for getting you into this, Dolores. And he's like, Dolores, you really ought to find yourself a good man. But I already have a good man. And they're about to kiss, and then you see freaking Roger spoil the moment. Oh, please, don't mind me. So they end up getting out of here. Kamen Rider, I will not discuss that while I'm doing a review for the movie. I will ask that question in the comment section of that movie or of that video, and I'll answer it there. All right. But yeah. So then they're like, or you see Eddie getting ready to just drop the case until you see that Cloverleaf has now made a deal with RK Maroon on a newsreel at the theater, because back then the theater also did newsreels before each performance. And then he's like, that's it. That's the connection. So he goes to confront RK Maroon with Roger, and he's like, you stay down here or watch my back. And if anything, or if anybody shows up, honk the horn twice. Yeah, honk the horn twice. And he's just saying how much he can or he'll be helped. And he's like, nobody gets the drop on Roger Rabbit. Doink! With a freaking pan. And it's just like, oh, great. So now Roger Rabbit's out of the play. And RK Maroon has a gun. He's just really nervous, waiting for Eddie to show up, checking his watch at the main door. And Eddie shows up behind him from the hidden room to go into the editing studio. He's like, what's up, Doc? Eddie, what are you trying to do? Give me a heart attack? You need to have a heart before you can have an attack. He's like, yeah. You got the will? I got the will. The question is, do you got the way? Because I tell you right now, it ain't going to be cheap. And there's this paper that Roger has because he wrote a love letter to Jessica in lipstick that I kind of glossed over, even though that's actually one of the more important parts of the film. Sorry about that. So he then shows the thing to RK Maroon, and he gets a drop on RK as he's like, what is this, some sort of joke? No, but this is... Sprays some of the alcohol on his face and then punches him out. And then he puts his tie into the editing machine, the cutting machine. And he forces him to come clean. And he's like, or I blackmailed Jessica to get the pictures because I wanted to get, or Cloverleaf wanted me to sell my studio so that they can get their hands on Toontown, but they would only buy if Acme was going to sell too, but the stubborn bastard wouldn't sell. And I didn't want to see Toons destroyed. Toons destroyed. Why? If I tell you I'm a dead man, you're a dead man if you don't tell me. He's like, or unless Acme's will shows up by midnight tonight, Toontown will be live for the free, and that's as much as it gets because you then see a gun coming out, a big old long barrel revolver, and shooting they shoot RK Maroon in the back. And you then, Eddie looks out and he sees Jessica running for it because she was the one that knocked out her husband and threw him in the trunk of a car. So he goes down and he sees or gets in his car because Roger's been kidnapped, and he drives and that goes to Toontown. He stops before he gets into Toontown because he's still traumatized. But then he's like, you know what? I got to put this aside. So he pulls out a thing from his detective bag, and it's opens it up. It's a Toon revolver, and it was a gift to him from Yosemite Sam. Thanks for getting me out of that hooskow, Yosemite Sam. And you get the 6 bullets. I love the 6 bullets, man. They're like, oh my God, Eddie Valiant, you are a sight for sore eyes. You get a bunch of different Western stylers, plus you even get a Native American one. And he's like, where have you been? Drunk. You feeling frisky tonight, fellas? Yeah, let's go. They load themselves in, and he's about to take a drink again and pours it out, throws it up. And he uses the gun to shoot the bottle. Well, it's the Native American one who does a very loud ululation and then destroys the whiskey bottle with a tomahawk. So then we get into Toontown. Toontown is so freaking great, folks. I mean, honestly, if a real Toontown existed, I would pay money to go and visit it because it just works, man. It really is fun to see. And he crashes into the car that he was chasing. And he then looks up. There's a silhouette in one of the windows that looks like Jessica. He's like, okay. He gets into the elevator, and it's Droopy. The best freaking dog in cartoon history, man. Droopy, the dog. Going up, sir. Well, he falls over because the step in. Watch your step, sir. Hold on, sir. Whoosh! Freaking causes Bob Hoskins to go flat. He's like, then he stops it at the floor, that they're stopping, and he's up there. He's like, "Your floor, sir." And then he extends his neck. "Have a good day, sir." And then drops out. Okay, have a good one, Rye Kitty. Thank you for stopping in. Yep. I mean, Droopy the dog is just so freaking great. And so then he peeks through the hole and he's like, "I got you now." And it's this character that looks like Jessica with lingerie. And then he opens the door and you see the eyes look at Jessica. "Oh, man!" It's Lena Hyena. And it's like, "Yoo-hoo, lover boy, it's Lena Hyena." It is just so freaking hilarious. Her lips can punch through a door, and she kicks down the door. And so he hides in the men's room, except that the men's room has been demolished. And he's like, "Oh, no!" Because in Toontown, there are different rules, even for humans. That you don't fall until you notice that your feet aren't touching something. That's a great rule in the Toon world. So he reaches up, grabs his hat, and he starts falling. He grabs a pole to stop himself. And who's up in a little nest on the pole but everybody's favorite yellow bird, Tweety. And it's like, "Hi, Tweety." "Oh, look, piggies. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had a roast beef." "No." "And this little piggy," and he falls down. "Oh, no, ran out of pitties." Now, a lot of things that are something that a lot of people don't realize is Tweety's actually female. Yeah, Tweety's actually female, folks. And so he's then falling, and he's like, "Ugh!" Really hates that that Tweety did that. And then we see Mickey and Bugs Bunny here, and they're like, "Jumping without a chute, that could be dangerous. You know, you could die, you can get killed." Like, "Yeah, any of you got a spare?" Gee, Bugs does." "Yeah, but I don't think you want it." I do. Give it to me." "Oh, well, gee, you better let him have it, Bugs." Okay, sir, but don't tell me I didn't warn you, but here's your spare. Thank you." And so they pull their chutes, and he pulls it, and it's a spare tire, Acme. "Oh, no. And you think he's about to die as soon as he lands, because chances are he will die. Well, Lena's down there, saves his ass, and kisses him down the street so hard that he goes down the street. And she's then running, and he's like, rips the line in the street, leading it into the brick wall. And so she follows the line, smacks into the line. Her boobs are out, her arms are out, her legs are out. And he's like, Toons, gets him every time. So now he's in a dark alley. And he's walking, and he sneezes. His own shadow's like, Gesundheit, thanks. And then he's looking at the shadow like, wait, really? And we see Jessica, Valiant, pointing a gun at him. I always knew I'd buy it in Toontown. And so she shoots, and as he's saying this, you see Judge Doom's gun and his cane come up, pointing down at Eddie. And she's like, behind you. And so she shoots at the wall, and it ricochets into the shadow of Judge Doom, knocking him over. And so she explains, or she's like, drop it, lady. I just saved you, and you don't trust me. I don't trust anyone or anything, not even your own eyes. That's the gun that just killed, or that killed R.K. Maroon, and Judge Doom pulled the trigger. Doom? And so she's like, or she tells him a little bit, and you see Doom running away. That's right. You'll never stop me. You're dead. You're all dead. And he shoots with the cartoon gun, and it's like, really? Three of the bullets are like, which way did you go? I don't know, man. I think you went that way. Well, let's go. They all went the wrong way because Doom went the other way. Dum-dums. So they're looking for the car to get Roger because Rogers was in the trunk. And he's like, Roger split on me. No, he didn't. I hit him on the head with or with a pan and threw him in the trunk so he wouldn't get hurt, you know? And so it's like, well, where's Roger now? And the weasels are coming. Well, come with me. We'll take Gingerbread Lane. No, Gingerbread Lane is this way. And they emphasize the sticking out the thumb like this. And so then you see Benny show up with the cab sticking out his thumb. I'll be right there, you know? And so they get into the cab looking for Roger. He's like, really? Or what do you see in that guy? He makes me laugh. And it's like, the funny thing is, I once asked one of my family members what she saw in her own significant other. You want to know what the thing is? He made me laugh. And it's like, all right, that works. So the judge is already outside of Toontown with dip ready and pours it out along the road. So Benny runs over the dip. He's a Toon, so he ends up wiping out. And they all get taken to the Acme factory. Now, you see Benny opening his eyes, reacting, and then closing them, making him feel like he's out cold. And then seeing where they're going and whatnot. And Roger shows up, or driving out with Valiant's car scraped up to hell and gone. And Benny's like, shove over, Roger. You've driven enough for one night. And they're looking, or while at the Acme factory, then you hear the full plot, or you hear the full motive and plot and whatnot. And it's like, or the will's not on. Well, frisk the woman. I'll handle this one. Sticks his hand down into Jessica Rabbit's cleavage, and you get the booby trap with the bear trap. Nice booby trap. And so they're all laughing and whatnot. And so the judge looks at him and they stop laughing. And they're talking about how, or the judge is talking about his plans. And he's like, a couple of years ago, I stumbled upon a plan from the city's legislature and their council about a plan that they had. They're calling it a freeway. What is a freeway? And they're talking about how it's a highway from here to Pasadena, basically a capitalist dream of progression. And nobody will ride in this freeway when they could take the red car for a nickel. And they learn that Judge is the sole stock shareholder of Cloverleaf. I bought the red car so I could dismantle it. And they were drilling into Toontown from the Acme factory, and he has a bunch of dip, and he's like, there's enough dip in here to wipe Toontown off the face of the earth in minutes. And traffic jams will be a thing of the past. Yeah, right? Oh my God, right. Freaking Jack of all casuals does so great. And we then see hold on, folks. Brain fart again. Roger come in he flushes himself down the toilet and gets in there. He's like, get back, Judge. I'll pump you full of that. I said drop it. And everybody drops their guns. And he's like, I bet Justice would hit you like a pile of bricks, because one of the weasels were up there with the bricks being held up there. Well, he slices it, and a bunch of bricks land on Roger, and he's seeing stars. She's like, Roger, say something. Oh, look, stars. Ready when you are, Raoul. Tie up the lovebirds. Now, remember, Toons can slip anything they get tied up with, unless the judge also says, and use that escape-proof Toon rope. So now they can't get out. So they really did cover the writing very well and use that escape-proof Toon rope. Now they can't escape. So now they're getting dip sprayed at them, and it's like, the judge is walking off as some of these balls got dripped all over the place. So he slips there, and he's holding his eye, and Eddie's about to try to do something, and he's like, "Look out! Don't try it." And they all start laughing, and he's like, "Oh my God, don't you idiots realize you're going to laugh yourselves to death?" And so this gives Eddie an idea. And the scene where Eddie just sings and laughs and does all these things. I mean, Bob Hoskins doing backflips. I don't think that was Bob Hoskins doing backflips, though. Did Bob Hoskins really do a backflip? Let's look it up. You know what? I'm willing to look it up. Did Bob Hoskins do backflips in Roger Rabbit? Did Bob Hoskins do his own stunts? He was almost completely on his own. Rubber mock-up, puppets, and whatnot. Apparently he may have done his own. Holy shit. Just tumbling around and even do somewhat of a handstand. So it was freaking Bob Hoskins. I guess that was actually doing it. Holy crap. And yeah. So he gets the weasels to start laughing at themselves, and they are laughing so much, and they start killing themselves, which is pretty freaking hilarious. And so, or Jessica, he's out of his mind. Roger, I don't think so. The singing ain't my line. It's tough to make a rhyme. If I get stuck, I'm out of luck. I'm running out of time. He's like, thanks. And so he goes to do some long juggling with the heavy balls, and they keep on smacking him in the head. Oh, my God. That whole scene was just so great, folks. And he triggers a thing or a little conveyor belt. He's like, I'm through with taking falls. I'm bouncing off the walls. If I had that gun, I'd have some fun. I'd kick you in the... And then a vase smashes him on the head, and he drops. And Roger's like, no, that doesn't rhyme with walls. No, but this does. And he kicks the lead weasel in the nuts, or in the balls, sends him into the dip, sending that one off to the afterlife as well. Now, he then goes to try to knock the thing down or stop the machine, and the judge kicks him, and the judge pulls his cane sword, and while he's looking, he's like, okay, what do I do? So he grabs a singing sword, which I believe is like Frank Sinatra singing Whiplash. Or Witchcraft, not Whiplash. Witchcraft. And it's like, okay. And so he's like, screw this. He grabs a Toon magnet. So the judge is trying to get away from the Toon magnets until he realizes that he can lean forward with his sword, and it pulls him towards it. So he's like, oh shit, reverses the damn thing, and the magnet traps Eddie with a metal barrel. It's like, don't move. So the judge decides to get a steamroller. He's going to roll Eddie, and Eddie sees the holes that one of those other cops used earlier to stick, say, the edge of the my screen here is the hole where you could stick your arm in and pull it back out. Well, if you do this to a solid object like the magnet, the Toon magnet, you could punch a hole in the magnet, which he does to escape. And then he gets up on the thing, kicks the judge, and the judge is able to basically beat the hell out of Eddie. And they end up getting in the front of the steamroller, and Eddie tries hitting him with a super glue container, and the judge punches into it, and he's trying to get it off, and then he goes to punch Eddie, gets his hand stuck to the steamroller or to the roller, and then he gets his foot stuck to the roller, and he starts screaming after Eddie saves Roger and Jessica. And you folks, when you see that he's getting crushed, you know that this is not something that kids need to see. Now, there's no graphic blood or anything, but you see that he's getting flattened, and it really is kind of disturbing to see somebody getting flattened like that. So then he's like, "Hey, look!" And you see the flat body, and it starts going up like this. He's like, "Holy smokes, there's a Toon! Surprise!" Not really. That lame brain freeway idea could only be cooked up by a Toon. Not just a Toon. Now he uses some air to reinflate himself, and you see the hat pop off, and his two eyes pop out of his face. The safe version cuts that scene. Yeah, I know, right? And you then see him turn, and his eyes are burning red eyes. It's like, remember me, Eddie? When I killed your brother, I talked. And I can't get that high. And he says, I talk just like this. And then he's staring daggers at Eddie. Now, folks, when Christopher Lloyd gets into the villainous roles, he really gets into them. So when he springs out after Eddie, to see that, dude, Christopher Lloyd just springing out after Eddie with springs on the bottom of his feet, literally springing after him. That is the creepiest freaking scene, man, where it shows just Toon eyes coming at Eddie with Christopher Lloyd's body. It is creepy. And oh my God, dude. And he starts throwing him around and whatnot. And then he starts the dip machine back up. And he pulls his glove off. And it has a humongous anvil that he punches Eddie with. And then he turns it around, goes down, lifts it up. It's a big old golden saw that he extends it out, cuts a chain to let him know that this will kill you. And you see him walking slowly towards Eddie. Yeah. And it's like, holy crap, dude. He's really going to freaking, you really think that he's going to buy it. So then Eddie sees the hammer from earlier that the other guy was using. And so he gets out of the way really quick, just as Doom is about to get him. And then he dodges Doom again with and uses the hammer. Well, Doom moves out of the way, looks where the hammer's going, and, well, it hits the switch on his dip mobile. And you also see the wind from the saw on Eddie. Yeah. I mean, you see how this thing is really, or was actually there to give off something, but it's a cartoon version of it. So when the judge gets dipped, oh my God, dude. Christopher Lloyd played this so well. I'm melting! Wah, wah, wah! It's screaming around. I mean, folks, when I did that, that's the literal sounds he's making. Wah, wah, wah! And he's screaming, I'm melting like the Wicked Witch of the West. And it's like, oh, dear Lord. And the whole place is dipped out. So Roger's like, the place is full of dip. We can't let us down yet. So he uses some sprinklers and fire hydrants to let out the water pressure and rinse out the area. Now the machine has now crashed into Toontown, and one of the trains in Toontown smashes the machine out of frame. And it's like, what about the rest of the dip that was in that machine? I mean, yeah, I know that there wasn't enough dip in there, but there's still residual dip. And I really do like that scene, though, because it's like getting rid of the threat. Now, wherever it may land, that part of Toontown will kind of be affected, because if the dip drips, well, there you go. And so the real police arrive. They're like, what the hell is that? And also Dolores arrives too with the police, and it's like, Who would have thought that Judge Doom was a Toon, or Judge Doom killed Marvin Acme and R.K. Maroon and my brother, and they realized it was a mask and whatnot. And then you see all the Toons from Toontown, Mickey Mouse, Minnie, Goofy, the Warner Brothers cartoons, all of them coming in and looking. It's like, whoa, dude. Well, I tell you what, he wasn't a dog, he wasn't a mouse, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. And it's like, wonder who he was, right? And then Dolores draws attention to Eddie's ink stain on his shirt. He's like, oh yeah, that was a stain that Marvin Acme scored me with his pen. I guess it came back. And Roger points out the ink, the reappearing ink. And he's like, well, none of this is going to happen without the will. I mean, without the will, we're just waiting for some other progressive's wrecking ball. You know? Shucks, I wonder what he really was, right? All of us do, really. I mean, I wonder what he looked like without the rubber mask. But anyway, so he's like, hey, Roger, that love letter you wrote to your wife, why don't you read it now? And so as he's reading it, the disappearing ink that was his will ends up showing up, and Roger reads, I, Marvin Acme, or with full sound, or with sound mind and body, bequeath the Toontown to his lovable characters, the Toons. So now the will has been revealed, a couple hours too late, but still it is revealed. And he's like, does this mean that your days of being a sourpuss are over? Yeah, well, time will tell. Well, it's good for me. Put it there, pal. Yeah. And he goes to shake his hand, and you see him get hand buzzed again by Roger this time. And you see that really angry look on Eddie's face. And he's like, don't tell me you're back to being a sourpuss. And you see all the other Toons, they're like, and so he picks up Roger, and he's like, does this answer your question? And he gives him a big old freaking smooch. And you hear the song that they were singing from when Eddie went into Toontown, Smile, Darn You Smile. And they all walk off and have their little happy ending. And you also see Porky Pig come through. Come on, guys, that's all. That's all, folks. Hey, gee, I like the sound of that. That's all, folks. I can't do a Porky Pig impression. But it really that movie is just so great, folks. And roll credits and whatnot. It truly, Bob Hoskins is such a great freaking actor. And I do miss his acting in some of the movies that he was in. I mean, he had such range. He could do comedy. He could do serious movies like Unleashed, where he plays the guy that owns Jet Li's character. It is just so freaking great. And Roger Rabbit was basically, Bob Hoskins was a virtual unknown at the time. So this was basically his first real breakout film. And it really is good. And so objectively, when it comes to this film is roughly around, I would actually say this film is around an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. The dedication that the production took to make this film was exceptional. I mean, it took 2 years to make this film, kind of like it takes 2 years to make a Star Wars movie when George Lucas was doing things. And you see that they really weren't messing around. They paid so much attention to detail. A Toon that when it touches a dusty chair, you see the fingerprints and all that stuff. It really is so great. So yeah, an 8.5 to 9 out of 10, where it's more of a 10 out of 10 subjective. I absolutely love Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I recommend it for anybody who hasn't seen it, because this is the only time that you'll actually see Warner Brothers cartoons and Disney cartoons in the same movie together. And Moviegoer is no exception. It's 10 out of 10. So the hints for next week, as I am going to reiterate from earlier in the stream, all of October will be horror movies or scarier movies, horror themed. So the hints for the next one is a what if with a dark twist. So if you know it, you know it. Don't spoil it in the comment section, and don't spoil it in the chat. But if you want to guess it, leave me a DM on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Jack of all casuals, Riot Kitty, Cayman Rider. Who else was in here? Cannoli Sasquatch, thank you for being in here. Wise Guys Entertainment, thank you for showing up. Price is Right Review, thank you for showing up. And Vanja, thank you for showing up. So, yeah. Thank you to all who showed up and to all who have been lurking in the background. I have an idea that a couple may have been lurking in the background that wasn't talkative. But thank you very much. I wonder what he really was. Yeah. But yes, if you guys know it, the hints are it's a horror movie and it's also a what if with a dark twist. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below of Roger Rabbit. Did you like it? Did you not? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the videos out, folks. Believe me, sharing the videos out gets the channel noticed. The views and the likes get noticed by YouTube. So all of that really does help, folks. Please help me get my watch time up a little bit more. I'm trying to break 3,000. I haven't got there. Soul Extraction, good to see you. You can always watch the replay, but I do appreciate you being here, buddy. Anyway, folks, these hints are tough. I'll give you one more hint. A superhero what if with a dark twist. But don't spoil it if you know it. Anyway, DM me, Jack of all casuals, on Twitter if you know what it is from that. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to go get some lunch. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.